Bahamas climate and weather patterns. That a new company that's being informed. I got to get used to this name, and I'm gonna let Mr. Michael Strawn explain that. But I'll just say a few words before I get there. Bahamians, a lot of things are happening in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We have to try the best as we can to understand what is going on. We must not be left in the dark. And so we have to ask questions. Now, some of you don't like to ask questions, so you get left out. But you have to ask questions. I know my sister, she pesters me with a lot of questions, particularly when it comes to the Constitution. You hear people would ask those, and those are good questions. And some of the questions are very difficult to answer because the Constitution is not readily known by the majority of our people, but we'll deal with that at a later time. But we have Mr. Michael Strawn here for this new company. He said it's been around for 7 years. Mr. Michael Strawn, welcome to Express Yourself on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. Give us this name of the company, because I have a little difficulty with it. And also its beginning, how it all started, where we are now,
Right.
and what it portends to the future. So we could just start from the beginning.
All right. Well, thank you for having us here today. I'm Michael Strawn. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Boxman, Bahamas Aviation, Climate and Severe Weather Network. We're a company, as our name states, we're in the aviation, weather, and climate business. This past May, on the 7th of May, 2025, we signed a heads of agreement with the government of the Bahamas for the build out of our $427 million weather sensing network that we're calling the WXSenseNet. And with the HOA also, we were granted the authority and the power to now take over the aviation weather from the Department of Meteorology. And it's an essential function because, as you know, tourism is the backbone of the economy.
Yes.
And airlift is growing quite drastically. We've seen in the media quite recently the signing of several agreements that encompass the redevelopment of several out island airports. And so
Yes.
one of the main safety concerns transiting through the Bahamas and in and out of the airports sometimes is the lack of efficient and timely data, especially in regards to weather. As we saw yesterday, we in South Florida, the severe weather system that shut down essentially Miami International and Fort Lauderdale Airport. So it's something that we are very cognizant of. It's no secret we live in a very active tropical zone when it comes to hurricanes, and right now we're in the middle of our rainy season. And so it's very important that pilots have this information so that passengers can safely transit through the region in and out of our airports, and maintaining the highest safety standards that is expected of a country of our stature and standing within the tourism sector.
Definitely, yes. Now, give us some background about the company
So-
from its beginning, right on up to where we are now.
So Boxman was started about 7 years ago by Mr. Robert Karen. And the basis of the company initially started after he had a very near-death experience during Hurricane Joaquin down in Crooked Island.
Okay.
And after that, he kind of started to do research as to why, the weather reporting wasn't as accurate and robust, and also realizing, he comes from a media background.
Yes.
Realizing that for the layman, when you hear a meteorologist talk, it kind of gets a little boring and long in the tooth. So it started off initially as a project that was geared to improve the weather reporting, the weather data, and also the visualization of the weather.
Okay.
And during that process, we were blessed to form partnerships with a lot of foreign companies such as Raytheon, which is a large U.S. defense contractor that also controls 60% of the world's airspace through various projects. Mm-hmm. And through the partnerships there, we realized that, one, forecasting that the Met Office does is great, but obviously governments are tied when it comes to budgetary restraints and whatnot. And so it takes private sector companies like ourselves to assist with that. And so we started building out the WXSense network around 2017. The technical aspects of it, and what we found is that system can assist the Met Office with better weather information, but also in turn providing more robust data for air traffic throughout the region. A fun fact that a lot of persons don't, I guess, realize is that the Bahamas is the 6th busiest airspace in the world. There's some 600 plus thousand flights, almost 700,000 flights that use our airspace, and that's not flights that take off and land. That's just flights that are going through.
Okay.
And so those planes that transit through our airspace, they are required by law to have a certain level of information en route. And so it snowballed into doing the research on that, into realizing that the Bahamian government was leaving a lot of money on the table in terms of overflight fees and so on and so forth. And so the project kind of took a life on its own. And so the basis of the HOA being signed is that what Baxman is going to do is provide the weather data for the flights transiting through the region, which comes at a cost to the airlines, obviously. But also in restructuring the overflight fees, the government gets a better benefit. And the net benefit to the Bahamian people is that this project, some of the ancillary benefits include improving healthcare infrastructure throughout the Family Islands, especially. And so it's been 7+ years of a lot of hard work, and we were fortunate enough that the Davis administration took the project as a priority to make sure that this was done. And Quincy will be speaking as to the other side of the project, which is in line with some of the Prime Minister's climate agenda, that something we've been working on as a byproduct of this project. But that is the gist of what the Baxman project is.
Okay, good. All right. So the thing is that, so where are you headquartered now?
Our headquarters are at the Ocean Center, Montague, the Higgs and Johnson building. We just recently moved in there, and right now we're in the process of building out the world's first next-gen advanced aviation weather center that'll exceed anything that's currently in existence. And so we expect that to be up and running January. And we are also in the process of doing our regulatory filings with the Federal Aviation Administration and the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO. So we're really moving full steam ahead to date. We've assisted the Met Office, and another component of the project is we took over responsibility for maintenance and upgrades to existing equipment that the Met Office has. And we've spent about $4 million between the last 2 months on upgrading infrastructure, repairs, maintenance, bringing persons in, planning for additional purchases. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. Over the next 3 years, like I said, we're going to be investing some $400+ million into this project. And when the project is fully up and running, we'll be employing about 800 Bahamians full time.
800?
Yes.
Okay. Now, these are areas where you're going to be working in. You have equipment in the different Family Islands? Is that the understanding?
Yes.
Explain that a bit for me.
The Bahamas is 173,000 square miles. It's an archipelago. And with that, it poses a unique problem in that, some of our Caribbean counterparts, while they may have a few islands, 1, 2, or 3, Bahamas is unique that the government has 26 airports that it has to maintain and operate. Each of those airports require very specific equipment for the safe passage in and out of those airports, such as automatic weather observation systems called AWOS. And what that does is communicates the weather conditions real time to pilots, so they know the conditions on the airfield, the conditions around the airfield, altimeter readings, which also at the end of the day impacts the altitude which the plane flies. If you have a wrong altimeter reading, you can run into a situation where your instrument is saying you're at 500 feet when you're really at 100.
Oh,
and
I
that
see.
can
Okay.
create a
No, that
imbalance,
created a real
right?
problem. Yeah.
Yes. So
That's a real problem.
so we're going to be installing those equipment. There's currently 9, and we're going to install AWASs at all of the operational airports. In addition, we'll be installing 109 radars throughout the Bahamas to give full coverage, in addition to 3 state-of-the-art MSSR radars, which gives weather and flight tracking capabilities.
Yes.
And that's just on the radar and the weather equipment. In addition to that, we are working with our partners out of Abu Dhabi, Response Plus Management, and Response Plus Holdings and Response
Okay.
Plus Medical. And so their part of the job is going to be providing EMS facilities at all of the airports. In order for an airport to be certified, there has to be a certain level of equipment, fire trucks, ambulances. It's in the event that something catastrophic happens, you need to have those equipment on standby. And again, understanding the budgetary restraints of the government, we've built into our HOA a mechanism that allows those things to be covered by the overflight fees.
Okay.
And so we've already began the work on that. We've ordered 6 ambulances already that will start deliveries at the end of the year, and those are earmarked to go to the Family Islands, and Baxman is taking on the financial responsibility of that. But going forward, the overflight fees will be paying for equipment. So there are going to be specialty jobs required on almost all of the Family Islands, and I know because of the strategic position of the Southern Islands, where when a hurricane is coming through the Bahamas, if it's coming from the Atlantic side, it typically impacts Anagua, Maguana, Aucklands, and those islands first.
To get hit.
Right, and so it's in our best interest to put certain research technology down there, so that we can better understand the impact of these storms, the patterns that cause these storms, and also the understanding the changes in the sea levels based on any potential climate changes and whatnot. Because we need to ensure that the Bahamas is at the forefront of this, just simply because of the makeup of our islands,
the makeup of the country.
Correct.
That
And
is
so
correct. Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone that lives in Nassau can even notice a difference now when we have these torrential downpours, how quickly the island floods.
Yeah, man.
And
quickly.
So it's almost symbiotic that these things run together. And so we're starting with aviation, but as our name states, we're in the severe weather business, and we want to help improve the reporting of the stuff to the Bahamian public, and also the technology that can better predict these patterns and give it more advanced warning to persons when these severe systems are coming through.
Okay, good. Now, let me just ask you one question before we get the gentleman here. The point is about lighting at these airports.
Right.
That has been a major problem. How is it that no, what should I call, reflectors have been put on the runways?
Right.
Like how I noticed when I was driving in Tucson, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't got no street lights. Reflectors are on the streets.
Right.
The right side, the middle, and in the the left side, where you can see just as if there was lighting there. When your car lights shine on the reflectors, you can see everything where you're going. Well, how come we have had where there were trucks or buses or whatever on the runway to shine to see where
to guide the aircraft? That's more of an infrastructural issue. A lot of those runways, especially on the Family Islands, they were constructed some 40 years ago, and they've not done much in the form of upgrading them. So I'm happy to see the government is taking a proactive approach in signing these redevelopment issues. I mean, the runway extension in Long Island is much needed, and also I know they had to shut down the airport in Cat Island for a little bit to resurface it.
Right.
But the interesting part about all of that is when you get these airports certified, that is a essential part of it. And so a lot of it boils down to the capital and infrastructural costs, and the maintenance of that. To be quite frank, there's also an infrastructural issue as far as reliable, consistent power generation to some of these things.
That's a big problem.
So, we had an instance where, we're working on it now, and Minister Kobe Davis and her team at BPL
Yes.
has been more than accommodating to us in that regard. But there's a radar in Maiguana that's never fully been powered up because there's not a direct line for power. BPL is now, thankfully, working to resolve that issue. But that in itself shows you the fact that, where we're not really good at, and we're trying to improve it is the proper infrastructural planning. And so, aviation is something that it fuels the lifeblood of most countries and most economies.
Yes.
And, as private traffic increases with more high net worth individuals traveling to the out islands for bone fishing and all of these other things, the priority now has to be to make sure that those airports are at a certain standard. And we are going to do our part in ensuring that it happens because, one, we have a mandate to do so, and two, based on our relationships internationally, we want to make sure that the Bahamas excels in this regard. And, there's a lot of flights. American Eagle just announced that they're starting a flight from Miami to Bimini, and there's a lot of interest in the out islands. And we hope that through this project and the infrastructural upgrades that comes with it, we're able to kind of help with the rejuvenation of the out island economies.
Okay, good. Now we bring this. You're Mr.
Quincy Roll.
Quincy Roll. Quincy Roll.
Yes.
Mr. Quincy Roll, what is your
position? So I'm the president of a company called TDL. We're basically the technical support arm of Baxwin. So we handle all of their data transfer needs. For example, if you need to get radar data, AWAS data into a cloud, radar data specifically, to try and push into some numerical model to be able to create a forecast, that kind of thing. We assist with those kinds of things. Anything data transfer wise, also anything application development wise, any apps, that kind of thing. Yeah, we would assist Baxwin on that aspect.
Okay, I believe we have a caller in, Mr. Producer. We have a caller on the line. Caller, you live on air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Professor Sidney MacArthur Walter Thompson.
Yes, sir.
This is number 7.
Oh, okay, all right.
And to your guest,
Mr. Strawn and Mr. Rose.
I hear your guest is opining, walking on eggshells, but after 52 years, I want to ask the question. I don't know if I can put it like how you put it, MacArthur Walter Thompson. Okay. What clear-cut changes have been made in each and every constituency by successive governments? I know if I say that right.
Successive administrations. There's only one government.
Well, successive administration.
That's
what
correct.
Clear cut? I hear them talking about Maiguana and this and that and all of this one and that one behind. But after 52 years, you can't tell me it's deliberate what they doing. You can't tell me that because they could take one airport a year or every 2 years and get the infrastructure in this country right. So it's deliberate. I call it a divide and conquer policy so that they can stay in power. And it doesn't matter which side of the fence the Bahamian people go, whether they go to Ingram or they go to Christie, they have been hot. Thanks for taking my call, Professor.
I don't know whether you want to get it.
I mean, listen, the good part about it is we're not a government agency. We're a private entity, we're nonpartisan. But I will say that this isn't. I agree with him. And if I would have just put on my professional hat for a second, my background is in finance, and so at the end of the day, the government has. We may look at it as citizens that they have unlimited resources because there's an opinion on, what they may deem frivolous spending or whatnot. But the reality of it is that there is limited amount of money that has to go into several different areas to benefit the Bahamian people.
Yeah.
The successive administrations have the same issue. They have 26 airports that they have to maintain. And while it may on paper make sense to say, let's take one airport a year, the economics of that does not align most of the time. So what you see happening is a direct result of increased interest in these islands. Now, we're not in the business of redeveloping airports or managing airports and whatnot. we're in the business to assist in that mandate where we can.
Okay.
But from a personal opinion and a personal standpoint, a professional standpoint, it all boils down to economies of scale and making sure that, you know, the government allocates resources in the most appropriate form. Whether we agree with it or not, that's up for debate. That's always going to be up for debate.
Well, that would be, yeah.
But
yeah, that is true.
From an infrastructural investment standpoint, I mean,
Yes.
it's a problem that regardless of party, each government is going to have that level of that problem where it is a internal fight as to what should the resources be allocated to. And I will give credit to the person, not only this administration, but successive administrations that has tried to improve the infrastructure slowly over time. And I'll give you an example. Just to redo a runway is millions of dollars.
Wow.
And so you multiply that by 26, and if you look at the level of volume of flights, if LPIA is the one that has a lion's share of arrivals and departures, the focus is obviously going to be on that.
That is true. Yeah.
And so as the other islands, get as the other islands start to see an increase in traffic, obviously the safety mechanisms have to kick in. We are starting that first part in hope that once we do this, the other stuff will kind of fall into place. And as we restructure the overflight fees, then that revenue would be now allocated directly into infrastructural upgrades, which would take the pressure off the government. And that is really the intent of this project in a lot of regards, is to provide kind of a pressure release valve for the government in at least these areas.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the overflight fee, I want you to explain that a little bit more.
So every country under the Chicago Convention has a right to avail themselves of fees for the usage of their airspace.
Yes.
Like I stated, the Bahamas is in a very strategic position. It's the 6th largest airspace in the world. You can get from South America and Latin America into Europe or North America without using our airspace. In most cases, is the most cost-effective and most efficient way to do that. So what we are proposing is it's going to be 2 sets of charges that's going to be combined into one. And these are the proposals that we're putting forward, is that there is going to be, for the box twin side of things, a charge for $275, and the government sees a benefit. Sorry, $250, and the government sees $500. So it'll be $750 in total per flight. Now, while that may sound very expensive, we looked at the data, and what the data said is that, if there's 696,000 flights and the average seat count of those aircraft is 174 seats, and they use the airspace for about 100 miles, 125 miles, it worked out to 2.5 cents per passenger per mile. So it's a nominal cost that the airlines will eventually have to pay, but it won't impact their bottom line, because to try and go around the Bahamian airspace, they're going to spend way more in fuel.
Right.
So it's one of those things where, from a strategic standpoint, it makes sense. And so through the HOA, we put a mechanism in place where the government's portion goes directly into supporting the aviation sector. And that's mandated by the airlines and ICAO, that, look, if we're collecting this money has to go into
for that specific
purpose.
Which
is why I made the point. As we get geared up into this project, once we're fully up and running and billing, it takes some of the pressure off the government to where we're able to directly allocate those funds into improving the Family Island airports, into improving the aviation infrastructure. And I stress aviation infrastructure mainly, because it's not going to be a situation where everything gets fixed all at once from this pool of money. But the hope is that once this is done, it opens up the door for more investment, more foreign direct investment, more local investment. And as those economies rejuvenate, we may see an influx of persons returning to those islands or migrating to those islands. And it's trickle-down economics. We want to try and create a situation where, look, if we can solve the problem as far as the aviation infrastructure, airlines will fly into there.
Yes,
and as the airlines come into their tourists and locals come into there, hotels have to be built,
Right.
housing has to be built, food stores, and eventually, hopefully, as these things happen, the other infrastructural projects like banks and hospitals and whatnot, they'll take shape.
Yeah, that is quite right. Yeah. Brother Rowe?
Yes, and so to add to what Michael was saying is that in addition to the MWO, the Meteorological Watch Office, and the advanced weather systems that Baxman is implementing, there's a second arm also, and it's in the field of carbon credits, aviation carbon credits. And so Michael and I, for example, would have just traveled last year to Barcelona, where we spoke at the S&P 500 conference, and we spoke about aviation carbon credits, and we actually won breakout partner at that conference, the only Bahamian company there, but the only company in the aviation space that had a mechanism for insetting and offsetting in the carbon credit space. So that was very interesting for us. So interesting that Mike and I were just talking the other day. We've been invited back again.
Okay.
This year, this year in December, later in December, to speak again. And Mike could probably chime in a bit about Corsia and what that means for the project. But just to give you an understanding of it, you may have heard about, in terms of carbon credits, there's seabed, carbon emissions, and then you may have heard about concrete, all very good areas to look into to try and help the climate, right? Yes. The Prime Minister's mandate is literally pushing climate change and trying to help regulate this whole problem we have. So in the aviation carbon credit space, what we've done is we've devised a system. We've actually built this system where we can help planes deviate around severe weather.
Oh, okay.
And they will deviate much sooner. In that regard, they will then spend less time in the air. If they deviate soon enough, they don't have to turn around too late to deviate around weather systems. So if you think about it, if you think about just 1 degree in advance, that can really put you on a new trajectory and save you time. You save time, you save fuel, therefore you save CO2 emission. You emit less carbon into the atmosphere. And we won't even get into the contrails and the nitrous oxide stuff. We won't even get into that, but just on the CO2 emissions itself, that is a major thing that's happening in the sky. And so our project, the carbon credits aspect, will definitely help airlines to save, and also governments to understand what is happening in their airspace.
Well, it's important that we know what's happening in our airspace.
Yeah, so we've even done some demos for Turks and Caicos over their airspace, and also over the UAE as well. So in other words, we're working.
Well, that's good. We're glad to hear it, because some things have happened in the past.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring that up because since you're talking about the airspace, because we have to protect what is ours.
Yeah, most certainly.
Certainly.
This is Professor Sidney McArthur Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. My special guests, Mr. Strawn and Mr. Roll from Maxwell. I gotta get used to this. Maxwell, I'll just say that. They'll explain what that means. And we're trying to learn about what they're doing. And it's very, very important that we have our airports working properly and everything working so that people can get in and out safely. This is Professor Sidney McArthur Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network 99.5 FM. We'll be back after the break. the weather. They're involved in the weather. What is it again, Mr.
Yeah, so we're in the aviation weather space and severe weather network and climate, which Quincy was talking about.
Right.
The climate aspect of the company in the terms of the carbon credits platform that we're developing.
Okay, good, yeah. So, okay, that's fine. Now, let us understand more about the climate aspect of it, because, we have seen a lot of things happen. For example, even the rain patterns have changed in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
And you will find that I noticed the other day it was raining extremely heavy in the area where my sister was. We came out of that, and it's just like, here was a stop at a rain stop right here.
Yeah.
Next space dry as a chip.
Yeah.
Not a drop of rain. And so you got all this water on your car and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So what was really happening there?
If for anyone that's a student of history or look at historical trends, the world, the globe or Earth in itself is something that's ever evolving, and these weather patterns have been changing on and off for centuries. So I think right now what we're experiencing is the perfect storm. We have a combination of things where the climate patterns are changing due to global warming, something that a lot of people try to refute whether it's an actual thing or not. But if the oceans heat up just 1 degree annually, you see storms more intense. Sea levels are rising. Obviously, one of the issues or the challenges I think we're experiencing in the Bahamas is the onslaught of resort development that requires dredging and whatnot. And
a lot of that.
That impacts the marine ecosystem.
Yes.
In doing so, you're going to experience higher than normal tides, and through that, the flooding issue is going to become more prevalent, which we are seeing now.
Very much so.
But it's weather is something that's hard to predict, but it's very good to study the historical trends, because now, if you're analyzing the data and you're looking at the data, you can see where these patterns are, where they were, and but they could potentially go.
Be. What I have noticed between last year and this year, this extreme heat.
Yeah.
The heat is extremely harsh this year compared to last year. Now we had a little bit of heat back then. This one, it just knocked you out.
Yeah, well, it's very real, and even in our travels for this project, we spent a lot of time in the UAE, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
And me and Quincy, we were in the desert, sand dunes and whatnot. Yeah. And one of the guys that was with us, he said, at some point in the history of this place, all of that was ocean.
Yep.
Yeah,
and so it's very funny to see that some of the stuff was the ocean floor and whatnot at some point. But it's a testament to the ever-changing patterns that weather that we see globally. You talk about the ice caps melting, sea levels rising, all of that stuff, but it is a real thing. I mean, historical data has proven over the past 50 years how much the average temperature has increased. And I think because of our position so close to the equator and whatnot, I think we experienced that a little bit more intensely.
Mr. Thompson, to go back to your point about it raining in one spot,
right,
and then another spot is dry.
Dry as a tip. Yeah.
So one thing that Baxman is also working hard towards is what is called hyperlocalized weather. So in other words,
slow down on that one.
Yes.
I got to explain that so the fella in Baytown could get it.
So hyper-localized, what it means is a pinpoint, like a needle point, pinpoint as direct as you can possibly get to a particular location,
right,
to give you more accurate information about the weather. So for example, like when you hear, 30% chance of rain, right? Well, what people think is, it might rain, it might not rain, we don't know. But what it actually means is that it's going to rain over 30% of the island. But you just don't know where.
Where? Yeah, okay, all
so
right.
You have to kind of watch the radars and all of that stuff,
but
to get a better idea. But with what we're doing, we can actually let you know in advance a more pinpointed way of where that weather is most likely to be
fall
on the island, on different islands in the Bahamas as well.
And that is very interesting.
And to add to Quincy's point, and we're doing this in collaboration with the Department of Meteorology, and we want to make it very clear that when it comes to general forecasting, the Met Office is the sovereign entity for that is responsible for forecasting. What we are doing is providing them more robust tools to better forecast and to better report weather and so on and so forth. So, again, this is something that we want the Bahamian public to understand, that from a weather standpoint, weather impacts everything. It does. It doesn't matter, hot day, cold day, rainy, however you look at it. Weather is constantly impacting your day-to-day life in ways that you may see and others that you don't see. And so while it may not be something that is at the forefront of most person's mind, we kind of laugh and we say, most people don't care about the weather until the sky turns gray. And so, but it is something that, since we've taken on this project, myself, again, I have a finance background. Quincy has an IT background, but weather has been something that we've been obsessing over since we've came into this project. And
well, that's good.
We can't thank the persons that work with us enough. Trevor Bazin, the former director of meteorology there, and Professor Roloff Pragintis from South Africa. He's one of the top atmospheric scientists in the world, and he is a part of Baxman. And so we have a lot of some of the best minds in the world assisting us with this. We have agreements with the U.S. government through NCAR, the National Center for Atmospheric Research, NOAA, the National Hurricane Center, and it's something that has blossomed into something way bigger than we even initially envisioned. It's been good, and we're proud to be ambassadors for the Bahamas wherever we go, and the response globally, even down to the carbon credits project, for example, has been overwhelming. I remember when we initially unveiled it in Barcelona, most persons didn't even know where the Bahamas was.
Let
alone believe we built a whole carbon credits project in the aviation space.
And that project in itself, outside of what Baxman is doing, has the potential to generate $200 to $300 million a year in carbon credits. So we're trying to put the Bahamas on the cutting edge, and is in more ways than one, and to assist with the Prime Minister and help the Bahamas in general. Bahamians have to be very mindful that, I think they did a study, and I think they said in 60-something years, most of South Florida will be underwater.
Yes,
so it's real, and if we're not prepared for it and make the relevant adjustments now, it could be catastrophic for, people's children's grandchildren, my children, their children, and future generations that may not be able to enjoy the Bahamas that I was able to enjoy as a child and as an adult.
Right. Now, getting back to the flooding part, because say areas like Pinewood Gardens, extreme flooding. And then you also talk about how the weather is going now. We have even other areas like where my sister lives in Yamakro. They're having flooding problems over there, which they didn't have years ago when they first moved out there. So how are we going to deal with this? For example, I hope we never get to the point where we have to have people evacuate from Providence.
Right. Yeah.
That would be a serious issue. Yeah. But at some point in the past, under Dr. Minnis, there was a removal of people from
certain areas.
Yes. And so how do we mitigate against something like that? Because even some people were talking about certain islands disappearing.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, that's where the talented engineers of our country would have to come in and advise on the best way to deal with that. We may have to explore certain options. I mean, even down to, I think you can put as much drainage as you want to, but if tide is high,
it's still coming up,
and you have flooding. I mean, it's a heavy downpour. There's a recipe for the disaster because there's nowhere for the water to go.
Because right on East Street, on East Street, I told my sister she had to use that road, the side road,
Yeah.
to get into Fort McCaster, which is on a rise. But the water was so deep on East Street, right
Yeah.
in front of police headquarters.
Yeah.
So I told her, don't go that way. Just go through the side road there and get into Fort McCaster. You know, we're on the
Yeah.
rise.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that was just a little bit of rain.
Yeah.
You see. So we need to get people like that. And I'm delighted that you people involved in this kind of thing to be able to help us who may not know about these things
Yeah.
to have a better understanding and appreciation
Yeah.
for these kinds of situations.
And in addition to that, we haven't even spoken about the most important component in my mind of the project is the educational component. You know,
Yes.
you have a lot of students in high school and in college that doesn't even realize that there's a career to be had in atmospheric research.
Okay.
And you know, we want to be a part of creating the next generation of Bahamian scientists. And so, you know, we were proud to announce in June with the Department of Meteorology, where we were, you know, starting with $25,000 scholarships for students interested in going into the atmospheric sciences. And, you know, we were proud that we were able to forge a partnership between Metropolitan State University in Colorado, the University Corporation of Atmospheric Research, also in Colorado, University of the Bahamas, and the Bahamas Baptist University College to train professionals. We're going to need 130 meteorologists in 4 years.
Wow.
The reality of it is
quickly.
I mean, we don't have enough locally trained persons, so unfortunately,
No,
we're going to have to bring in some foreigners to begin with. But our goal is to have our company staffed almost entirely by Bahamians, within a certain time frame. And in order for us to do that, we need to get students in school trained. And I think locally, courses will be starting January at the Bahamas Baptist University College in the meteorology and atmospheric sciences space. But you know, it's important that we try to move away from pushing the younger generation into kind of what our benchmark jobs and careers are: tourism, law, accounting, you know, being a doctor, and so on and so forth. Because right now, you know, we have some young, talented persons that work in the Met Office. Stephen Hunter for being one of them.
Yes.
And you know, Jeffrey Simmons has done a good job as far as
I've heard about him
trying to recruit as many young persons as possible into the field. Obviously, Basil Dean was he put together the Met Cadet program with Jo Beth Kobe Davis, the minister, and that. So there's a quiet push towards what we need to upskill and train Bahamians in. And again, this is where we go back into what the overall investment is going to be, and the net benefit is, you know, a lot of persons, they hear a lot of this stuff, and unfortunately the assumption is that, okay, when are we going to be able to see the benefit of it? Well, the benefits are going to come in a lot of different ways, but
of course,
you know, the main benefit that we're going to offer is employment and in various sectors, and we want to get as much Bahamians working.
Do you think that, Brother Roll, you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
No. What I wanted to understand is this. You may hear about things, and I always, someone may put a statement out either on the radio or on the air and the papers.
Yeah.
And it's just left there.
Yeah.
But there is no further clarification. See, what I try to do on my show is to make it simple for the average Bahamian to understand what's going on. I believe with a lot of things happening in the country, there's no real clarity for the masses of the people who this really need to get to. Some terminologies that you may try to explain today, the average person may not understand it.
Yeah.
And so you have this lack of understanding, lack of knowledge by these individuals, because the way how it may be explained is not clear to them. Okay? Because see, a lot of them, you know, they have some other problems trying to get this thing done, the next thing done. You know what that is.
Sure.
And so it takes away from what they ought to be doing. Okay? So I think that may be a contributing factor. Because let's say, for example, about the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Bahamas. I talk a lot about that. The point is, some people say, Professor, it should be taught in the school. But I say it hasn't been done in 52 years. So what you going to do about it? Okay? You have to find an
that very
alternative.
question as well. Why
Yeah.
wasn't it taught in high school?
That's a good question. Now you got to ask them. I told them, when they asked me the question, I said, well, you got to find it from them. I want to hear what they got to say. I may have my suspicions, but that's just suspicion.
Yeah.
But let us get a clear answer from them why that is so.
Right.
Okay? But I said to them, there are alternatives to it. You can learn about the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Bahamas. So don't necessarily wait, like how you're saying,
Yeah.
that you're all involved in the atmosphere, the climate, and the changes that need to be made in the private sector.
Yeah.
And that is a good thing. You keep the government is limited in various ways. That's fine. But the point is, you have to find an alternative to be able to get the message across to the people.
I think it's important for Baxwin, and we are working with the Met Office, and we will continue to do so, obviously. But it's going to be very important, to your point, to create education campaigns.
Yes.
Right? Like just exactly what you're saying, to ensure that, Joe Public understands exactly what is happening and how it can affect them, and also how they can prepare.
Well, of course.
And how they can prepare.
Yeah, because see, it would be better for the country and some people say, if you want to hide it from a BM, put it in the book. Now, I got a remedy for that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it on the airwaves. You know how many people have told me how much they understand about this Constitution?
Yeah.
Since I was explaining it to the people of the Commonwealth of Bahamas. See, it has to be put in simple, basic language so that they can understand. And I think we're going to have to use more of the airwaves because sometimes some of these people are so pressed in on various social issues.
Yeah.
They don't have time to.
Well, I mean, I fully agree. I think, a lot of times when we speak about like you said, misinformation or persons not really understanding it. We experience that even with this deal.
Okay.
The headline, people look at the headline and not really with the meat and potatoes of the story. And so, for example, persons, when we signed the HOA, persons assumed we got a $400 million contract from the government, but we're investing $400 million. We want to make that very clear. We did not get a contract for $400 million.
I think you got to expand on that one. They got a caller on the line. Call you live on here. Go ahead, please.
Hey, we say, Professor.
Hey, what's happening, man?
Yeah, everything good now.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Yeah, man. The other day they had one of the lady who I think she was not the minister of I'm trying to remember, but anyhow, she was talking about the at least I bring up the question about the Constitution in the schools. And she said the Constitution was already in the schools and teaching, but I tell her I didn't know nothing about that. You know what I mean? So
that's a lot of people telling me it's not there.
And we've been saying a long time they need to start teaching these kids about the Constitution, so that when they get old enough, they can know they can't. One could push that thing down their head.
But caller, before you get to that point, you got to have the people who are trained and qualified to teach it.
That's true.
You see, that's a factor that has to be dealt with first. Now, I agree that it should be in the school, but it's not there. It hasn't been there in 52 years. So we have to find alternative means to deal with it because it's a very important issue. And a lot of people do not understand how important it is. They need to know their Constitution. Go ahead, Colin.
Yeah. Well, Professor, but all around the world, United States, them everywhere, the Constitution inside the curriculum.
Yeah, that's a part of their system.
We is the only one who they want to keep us blind. See, the more you keep people them blind, the better. The more you could control them. Okay. So, and that's why every 5 years they come around with T-shirts and this and that and all, and they talk with this and talk with that. And the people them still go there and vote them in. But if you learn the Constitution from small up to you old enough to understand what's going on, Professor, I think this election, I think this country will run so different.
Okay.
People wouldn't stand up because right now in the hotels them right now, so hotels them they don't have no union in there. And then they have a lot of foreigners in the hotel now. If the foreigners inside the hotel now, it's 50-50. 50-50 inside the hotel down out west.
Okay.
And that's bad. They saying the Bahamian people don't want to wait. That's a lie. The Bahamian people don't want to wait for no 5 cents or 10 cents. That's why why are you going to wait for 5 cents? Then these people who come over here, they don't mind waiting for 50 cents or 10 cents because they was even getting 1 cent when they was home. So why, that's plenty of money to them. So the thing with Professor, the people, like I tell the people, if y'all want a union, y'all need to stand up and see what happened, Professor. They can threaten them to let them know if they get the union coming. If you all stand up with 10 people or 50 people, they could fire them and hire 50 more. See, that's the problem that's going on in this country. That's why a lot of people are scared to stand up, Professor.
Okay.
Because they get replaced. The people threaten them. If you go there and stand up, you can get fired and someone take your place, or they bring the foreigners and pay them less and take your spot.
Okay.
So the thing with Professor, we got to push like I always tell you, I always try to push it. I always, talk, and I always try to call on the talk show to try to say put my input inside it. But we need help in this country bad. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I'm 47 years old, and I don't see no change in this country. They can't fool me. You understand? The government no change. I just ride to a puddle of water in the Freetown area. That's been there from I 47 before I was born. And I see the young kids them walking up in this puddle of water, Professor,
yes,
for all them years. And these people them go right out there and vote. These people them, they ain't telling the people them that this would be need. This would be need, not what we want. This would be need. You understand where I got from?
yeah.
We need some drainage, or we need to find this way because people can get these young kids to get sick now. Things different now. They don't understand the Bahamian people's mindset, man, Professor. What's going on that one?
Oh, okay, all right. Gentlemen, let me just put a twist to this. The thing is, you're talking about climate change.
Yeah.
And getting educational information to the public.
If you'd like.
So that the public could have a better understanding of what they ought to be doing, preparing them, because we want the nation to survive.
Right.
And so, do you find, as far as from your 7 years, you say 7 years up to now, what have you seen generally with the Bahamian psyche in relation to weather?
It's an afterthought in most cases. And I think the only time we get really concerned really about weather is when the threat of a hurricane approaches.
Okay.
A couple of weeks ago when it was uncertain what direction Aaron was going to go in and whatnot, I had more persons calling me and asking me, well, what's happening with this storm? What's happening with that storm? And then the second we realized that it was nothing severe going to happen, that stuff tapers off. But the psyche of it is an afterthought for most persons. And while, I don't expect anyone to allow, obsessing over the weather to control their life, I do want the public to kind of understand why these patterns are happening, why the changes are happening, because like the caller said, you have now in certain communities over the hill and in certain areas where water contamination is water settling. That's water contamination. You don't want to have outbreaks of dengue and other airborne and insect transferred illnesses and whatnot, because it's just those little minor things that creates a problem on the healthcare system. We talk about trickle down economics, we talk about trickle down effects, so if you don't solve one issue, it could create a multitude of issues long term. And so it's just making sure that the parents understand, especially when they're sending their kids to school in certain weathers, we, for the most part, there's no emphasis on even kids having rain boots. And but we understand economically that may not be feasible for certain families to buy shoes and buy rain boots. But it's just those little things that may keep a child from developing an illness.
I agree with you.
And so, we want to try and be a part of the education of these things and putting it out there a little bit better.
Right. Okay. For the road.
Yeah. Again, like Mike said, we take it for granted a lot of time when we look at a weather forecast that the Met Office puts out, or when we jump in a plane, we just assume we'll just arrive at our destination, right? Safely. But with the tools that Baxwin is actually putting together and developing. I really like how you raise the point of education and helping to understand these things, because I think that's a big part of what we have to do to help the layman understand why it's important to pay attention to this stuff. And we will do that in partnership with the Met Office, with the advanced weather tools and systems that we're bringing in. And also when it comes to aviation safety, we will also be helping in that area as well.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Bruce, we have a call on the line. Caller, you live on air. Go ahead, please. Caller, you there? I'm not hearing the caller. Caller, you live on air. Go ahead, please. Mr. Bruce, I think that call may have gone. Okay. Yes, education is extremely important. And I think people are under a lot of pressure with their lives. You know, people put priority on things that they consider to be important. But I think basically what has been happening is that this lack of understanding has caused a lot of problems, unnecessary problems in my view, where, you know, we have to help. See, I look at it this way. We have to help the fellow who's weak or the lady who's weak to have a better understanding. In other words, some of them you got to pull along, bring them along, okay, so that they can make their contribution to nation building.
Correct.
And that would make it easier for all of us as we move along. It's going to take some time for that to happen, you see. And because we have not put emphasis on it, it just is passed over just like that. Like you say, they felt that nothing was going to happen. It just goes out the window. You see, so that is something we have to wait to change. This is Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. We have my special guest here, Mr. Strawn and Brother Roll here from Baxham. Baxville, I got to get this thing right. From Baxville, dealing with the weather patterns and the climate and things like that. This is Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. The lines are open 326-0272, 813-0271. We'll be back after the break. Robert Karen, and also Mr. B.J. Morse. Mr. Morse, yeah. Okay, and we're going to be discussing. I tried to get the full name of the company. They call Baxman.
Baxman, yes, sir.
Baxman, yeah. Okay, all right, yeah. And of course, Mr. Karen, I have some questions for you that I want to discuss with you in this second part of the show. Give us why did you set up this company? What's the reason for that?
Well, it goes back probably 9 years ago.
Okay.
A hurricane called Joaquin, and I was down in Crooked Island, and there was a big storm surge,
Right.
and the people had no advance notice of storms. If you remember, Joaquin went north, did a U-turn,
Yes, it did.
and basically I was having bets with the guys down there. They said the storm's coming from the north to the south, and I said, come on, everyone knows storms come from the south to the north.
Yes.
So we called the director based in the meteorology department, and I said, based in Karen here. He says, where are you? I said, we in Crooked Island. He goes, how is it? I said, oh, it's rough.
Rough, yeah.
We're right on Landro Point there.
Okay.
So he says, well, how far are you from the ocean? I said, oh, about 10 feet. He says, how fast you could run? I said, well, white guy could run pretty fast when he needs to run. And so he said, run fast. And then the storm came, the storm surge. And then what I wanted to do was to try and change the way weather is visualized.
Right. Okay.
And basically come to find out there was no you need to have data for visualizations. And
Of
so
course.
I spent 9 years creating the intellectual property. My wife kindly allowed me to sit in my library and try and figure these things out. As you know, being a professor, sometimes things take time.
Of course.
And then, we hired some amazing guys. You had two on before.
Yes.
Michael
they were
and
good.
Quincy, young
Yeah,
Bahamians.
Quincy, yes.
And so we then went to Raytheon, which is the U.S. defense contractor, the Iron Dome, Patriot missiles, the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
And they said it would be the first of its kind in the world that would propel the Bahamas to be at the forefront of aviation tracking, severe weather monitoring, and environmental monitoring. And so when I came back and told my mom that, she said, you didn't do well in math and physics. I need to see what they're up there smoking.
Right.
And so, then we just signed an HOA, and so we're now well on our way to making that goal a reality.
Okay. When was the heads of agreement signed?
It was signed in May.
In May of this year.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Uh-huh. Now, what I've noticed is, as I said to Mr. Strawn and Brother Rule, that the weather, when you look at what has happened between last year and this year, there's been a dramatic change as far as the heat is concerned. We had it hot last year, but this year is extremely hot.
That's correct. Yes.
Extremely hot. What do you think could have caused that massive change as far as the heat is concerned over the Bahamas?
I think it's the ever increase of global warming that is causing, and there's more moisture in the atmosphere. The moisture in the atmosphere, more humidity. More humidity leads to more intense thunderstorms like the one yesterday.
Yes.
And you're getting thunderstorms that are coming in that are just blowing up.
Yeah, blowing up, yes.
And
yes.
you have the hurricanes. You would know, being around. Remember Hurricane Andrew, 92?
Yes.
Came in
yes,
from the
I
east,
do, yes.
blew up.
Uh-huh.
Matthew did the same.
Yes.
Dorian did the same, and
Yes.
Aaron did the same. So you have
That
this
is
what's
true.
called rapid intensification.
Yes.
And so basically, the storm says, "Oh, thanks very much. There's some nice shallow warm water. I'll take that." And
Yes.
it's like fuel. It's like getting a crack conch with a Red Bull, and you're ready to go. So that's what it is about. Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting because we've seen such dramatic changes, and I mentioned to them about the fact that you see right here on your province, when you think it's raining hard in your area, you think it might be raining in other parts of the island. But I noticed several times that when it was raining very hard, when my sister was living in Yamakro, and as you come out of there, you come into a dry spot, not a drop of rain. It's like you could see where the rain stopped here, and you got the spot completely dry.
That's correct. That's so. When you get a normal forecast and you hear the Department of Meteorology say there's a 30% chance of rain,
yes.
that's not where you're standing. That's the entire New Providence. So where you're standing could be 0%.
Okay.
And so what we have to do is to provide the equipment to enable them to do what's called hyperlocal forecasts.
Yes.
Means it's only specific to what you do, what BJ does, what we are, so that the rain chance, right? When we had all this rain now, in Mycal, it was beautiful skies.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's like two different countries. So it has to be hyperlocal. So it's where you are standing, where you are going, or where you are, as opposed to a general area. Because when you do those general forecasts, any little change can mean massive errors.
Oh, okay, all right. So it's pinpointing exactly what may be happening in a particular area
At a particular time.
At a particular time, which is very essential.
Yes.
For the people to know and understand.
And to do that, it's a very expensive but very worthwhile. So that's why we're having to invest 427 million. I think Mike would have said.
Yeah, he said that. Yes.
Yeah. And so you have to put and models, weather models, average now are every 15 kilometers. They take a measurement. We want to bring it down to every kilometer, which is every 0.6 of a mile.
Oh,
so
okay.
in order to do that, you have to have all these radars, lidars, all this equipment merged together. Because if I'm going to give the weather where you are here on Elizabeth Avenue, the weather could be as far as the Hilton Hotel, or even as far as definitely the airport would be different than it is here.
Different situation altogether.
Yeah.
But there could be a difference right from here where Elizabeth Avenue is and Hilton down the road.
Correct.
Okay, well that's very good. Because as Mr. Strawn had said, that it would appear as if when you signed this agreement, 450 million, whatever it might be, it was assumed, and some people may get that assumption, that you were getting 450 million or whatever it is from the government. And he explained it. I told him he needed to explain that to Bahamian people to make them understand it's an investment that you're making.
Yeah, no. Let me assure you that if the government had 427 million, I'd be the last person they'd be giving it to wisely. They should be giving it to the people who need it most.
Who need it the most. Yeah.
No. This is about the Bahamian IP is Bahamian. Yes. The staff is fully Bahamian. Naturally, we have other advisors that are not. Yes. And this is about empowering Bahamians, but based upon the IP, based upon Raytheon warranting what it was the first in the world.
Yes.
We have been able to go out and raise that money.
Okay.
So this is an investment, just to put in perspective, that would be exceeding phase 1 of Atlantis. Yes, that was 200. Yes. It would be matching phase 2 of Atlantis. That was 480 somewhere, 427.
Yes, that's what he said. Yes.
And the long-term projects, hundreds of people will be across from IT to meteorologists, from scientists, from professors. We need to train people in education, from modelers. From EMS, you have all sorts of areas, and training. I think the guys probably spoke about training.
Yes.
We really want to empower the citizens, not only of Nassau. And by the way, most of the investment is in our family islands. Let's be clear.
Yes. Okay.
So this focus of the project is because a lot of people think that Nassau is the Bahamas. It's not.
That is true. Yeah.
The Bahamas is 173,000 square miles.
Square miles. Yeah. He said
it's the same size as California, bigger than England, Europe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's the 6th largest gateway for planes and the 2nd largest for boats.
Yes.
And so most of it is an archipelago. So we have to put this in areas where, let's just say, it's less than hospitable, less than easy to get to.
Yes.
In the middle of a hurricane alley, that every 3 or 4 years, when you raise the money, you're going to have a problem because a storm's going to come by.
Yeah, definitely, yes.
And let's be honest, people don't need, yesterday was a gorgeous day, sunny, calm.
Right.
They ain't going to need no weather forecast then.
Right.
They're going to want it when it's windy, rough, and when a hurricane's coming, and that's when the equipment has to be on and functioning, and when the equipment's going to suffer the most damage. But when you're an essential service, that's what you have to do.
Okay, all right. So the thing is that, I think these things need to be explained, as I said to those who were here earlier, simple, basic, fundamental language that people could understand. Because I believe what has basically happened is that a lot of people, sometimes you may hear an announcement put out, and it might just be on the radio, it might just be in the media, and it stops right there. But there's been no follow-up on further information. And so the average person may not fully understand what is being said or what's being communicated to them because there's no follow-up. It's just put out there and it stops.
So, yes, I just want to be clear. We don't have a contract from the government. The government gave us the right. We came with an idea. It's our intellectual property.
Right.
And we wanted permission to build it.
Okay.
And so they gave us a heads of agreement to build it.
To put it up.
To build it up. It's our money. We have to
Right.
go in. All the risk is ours. But the ancillary benefits to the country, I don't know if the guys talked about the carbon credits program.
Yeah, they did.
And
They
so
certainly
that,
did,
that
yes.
goes to the government 85%.
85%,
And all
yes.
And I can tell you, I've been down with Brother BJ here, and
Yes.
we've been to Maical, we've been to Cat Island, we've been to Salvador. We're going to Anagua on Thursday, and
Yes.
Crooked Island. We're coming down to see you.
Crooked Island, yes.
And so we're going to the Berry Islands tomorrow. They're going to Freeport tomorrow. The other team is going to Freeport
Uh-huh.
to hold town hall meetings, because you have to have the buy-in of the communities you're serving.
Of course, yes.
And so it's a very, but listen, I do want to say, in all of this, the one thing that we can't overstep is that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Transport and Energy, the Honorable Jobeth Kohli, and also Jomo Campbell and other ministers, Dr. Darville, have been tremendously supportive in this. I salute them and I thank them for their stuff, because this was available under the previous administration, but they chose not to believe in the project.
Believe in it, yes.
And there's a debt of gratitude that we owe them, and that's why failure is not an option, not only for our people but for our way of life. Because if things continue to go as they are, we're going to need more and more accurate forecasts to alert our citizens what's to happen. And when I know you haven't asked this question, but when my grandfather brought marijuana into the Bahamas, which was in 1962, it had 3,896 registered voters.
All right.
Today, Brother BJ, how many we got now?
On a good day, 200.
200 has a big drop.
And it's 28 by 10. It's bigger than Nassau.
Yes.
So
yes.
One of the other things you've got to think about is that I encourage other Bahamians that we have to invest in our own country.
Yes.
You might have a bigger project, better project, whatever it is. We still have to invest and have belief, because if we don't, in areas that I've been to around the Family Islands, no grocery stores, no pharmacies, no dry cleaning, no street lights.
Yes.
Running water is pretty brackish down there. Okay. You got no banks, no ATMs.
Wow.
You have no airports. You have no EMS. You have no ambulances. And there's a second class of citizens almost, because having worked at the PHA, I was the deputy chairman in the previous administration and the head of the emergency services.
Right.
I took great umbrage in the fact that Bahamians who are born and live on other islands have to pay $12,000, $15,000 to get their family to the PMH, whereas you and I drive or get an ambulance for free.
Yes.
There can't be two classes of citizens. There has to be one class.
One class. I agree with you.
Otherwise, we have what's called basically legalized apartheid, because this is one of the things the project will address, is the ability to provide EMS services, not only for aviation, but when they're not in aviation, to be used to assist the local populations. And that's what I hope one of the greatest things, the challenges that I found when I was at the PHA during the pandemic, was that sort of diametric.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah. Brother Morris?
The project, I think, is a godsend.
Okay.
For the country, but for my people in the Maical constituency in particular.
Yes.
Because they are going to get today, because of this project, what they haven't had in their entire
lifetime. Okay.
All right.
Yes.
The fact that, yes, the project is mandated to have the aviation rated ambulance and fire engines and the like, and the clinics upgraded and all that. Yes, the project is mandated to do that. Thank you. But the community is going to benefit from it.
Okay.
and these aren't your average run-of-the-mill ambulance that we're talking about here. No,
Okay.
no. New Providence does not have any of these. The first constituency in the Commonwealth that will get it will be Michael.
Michael.
And
Okay.
that's the first time Michael was first.
So what kind of ambulances these would be?
Now,
The section of ambulances.
I'm gonna allow Robert.
So these are aviation spec ambulances that handle severe trauma. So they're equipped to handle mass casualty events.
Wow.
So the regular ambulances, the PHA, are community-based,
Okay.
not mass casualty. So, when you're in an aircraft, if something were to happen, it's a blunt force trauma at high speed. So you have burns, you have multiple fractures, you have all sorts of things.
Yes.
And the paramedics and the trauma surgeons and stuff have to be trained to handle that.
Yes.
I'll put it in perspective. If your Note or your Honda fell out the air at 30,000 feet, you're going to need some assistance.
You better believe it.
If you jumped off a trampoline, and you wouldn't need that much assistance. So you're going to need more assistance. So they're far more the medicines they carry, and everything, how they're set up. But then you need to stabilize a patient.
Of course.
And then you need to try and find out. And thankfully, Dr. Darvel is going to designate the mini hospitals in Abaco and Freeport and the Rand as aviation centers, so we can bring in the teams that we need to do it. And
Okay.
And this is not paid for, just be clear, it's not paid for by the government. It's paid for by the planes that fly over, overflight fees.
Yes.
This is a mandatory thing that the airlines must play. It's for the safety, efficiency, and expeditious passage of any plane. So 186 nations do it.
Right.
We're just one of 12 that don't do it.
That don't do it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Because he did mention about overflight fees.
Yes. So these
So
are
how is that coming now? Are we collecting fees at this point in time, or
well, that's an interesting thing. So we're collecting some, but very minimal. So
Very minimal, okay.
So there are 5 categories and 9 items per category. We're only collecting 1.
wow?
So we're not doing it because in order to do this, we've spent considerable resources. We've invested at the moment $24.7 million to date,
Okay.
going rapidly ramping up. But you have to put in infrastructure plans. You have to put in all this. You just can't charge without justifiable fees.
Justifiable fees. Okay.
So this is for the safety, expeditious passage, and efficiency of the airlines. So the
Okay.
airspace right now is full because we can't track the planes. So the spacing has to be 80 miles as opposed to 5 miles.
Okay.
If a plane gets in difficulty, it needs to have a place to land. This is where
Exactly.
Mayaguana and San Salvador are designated because of the runways as aviation landing zones. They're 485 miles out.
Oh, okay.
And the third thing is, once you track the planes and you can provide them with some services if they needed to be, well, you need to tell them where the weather is and how they can get there quicker.
Right. Okay.
We can't do all 3.
Oh.
So the
okay.
pushback we've been having until this point was that we have been trying to charge for things that we haven't provided.
Okay.
So that's like you trying to sell me a car, but yet you don't own the car. I have a problem buying that car from you.
Yes, you would.
So
You certainly would.
yeah.
Yes.
So once you provide the services, and it's all driven by Baxter on this side, and then all the other monies come to the government for the airports for what they are. Yes.
Right,
And there's
I see
about
what you mean.
it's about so it's 9 categories times 5, so it's 945. So about 43 of them are not categorizing for. Now
Yeah.
it's for a government to decide what, if any, and how to do them. And so you put an aggregate bundle. But the beautiful thing about Baxwin is because of the turbulence avoidance, the wind assisted, the narrowing of the separations,
Yes.
airports like Miami are jumping up and down because they can now increase the number of departures.
Okay.
More departures, more revenue for the airlines, more
For the
planes.
airlines,
It's a
yes.
win-win.
Right. Yes. Yes. I just heard recently that Canada is sending in more people in here, more flights coming into the Bahamas.
Well, you see, they had a little bit of problem with the Canada flight in St. Martin,
Yes, they did.
crashed a bit hard. Now,
Yes.
if that happened in one of our family islands, there would be serious problems. We do not have the resources at the moment to be
Okay.
able to. That's why we're rushing so quickly to
So
get
quickly
these
to
up.
get them to do. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The lines are open 326-0272, 813-0271. Mr. Robert Karen is my special guest. And of course, we have Mr. PJ Morse here We're talking about this aviation improvement for the Bahamas. And of course, we need it very badly. And we are grateful that we have this Bahamian organization in cooperation with others to help us and assist us in being able to move the country forward. In fact, Mr. Karen, we need to have our young people involved in advancing the cause of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, because I understand from talking with a number of them that it would appear as if they've been having some serious challenges in being able to move forward. And I'm delighted that you have Bahamians in your company who are working and assisting in being able to move the country forward in this aviation program that you have. The point is that, as I see it, we need all of our young people. I always tell the young men when I see them, I need to get as young as I am. And they just laugh. But I said, well, that's part of the process where we have to go, because we need to see, particularly the men in the society, where they can make their meaningful contribution. And so when we have people like yourself, Brother Moss here, in the forefront, and others leading the way, of course, that is tremendous encouragement for a lot of people.
Sir, you brought up an interesting point, and I was trying to just look here. One of my friends wrote this today. There are serious issues facing our youth, and this is one of the reasons why I'm wanting to serve. My friend, just trying to look it up, my friend called it, I can't find it here at the moment, but he called it, here it is. He called it distraction politics.
Distraction politics.
And let me read what he said, and I think you're going to like it. He calls it distraction politics. Thanks, Grayson. Keeps us arguing about the ghosts of the past,
yes,
while today's problem, immigration, crime, cost of living, and crumbling infrastructure, keep walking right through the front door.
I think he has a valid point.
He has a valid point.
Now,
let me give you an example. So as a Bahamian, so our family has been with the Royal Bank, calling you out here, guys, for 122 years. We're the seventh oldest customer. It took us 1 year and 4 months to open a bank account. Okay. Because my mom and I are PEPs. Now, we've been called everything in the name, but PEPs is a new one.
Okay.
Let's be honest. OECD, they'd be speaking German if it wasn't for the Caribbean and English-speaking world. Yes?
Okay.
We can't have fiscal colonialism here running our country because it took us everything we had to open bank accounts. But the young people don't have that opportunity.
No,
but if you go to the United States, you go to Abu Dhabi, you go around the world, you can open a bank account in a day.
Wow.
Here it takes a year and stuff like that.
Okay.
So next thing, if you go to the Family Islands, if you don't have EMS, healthcare, airports, transportation, it's called the United States of America. Okay. I can fly from Miami to LA to Boston, Seattle to Texas, anywhere I want in a day.
Right.
If someone wants to go from Acklands to Crooked Island, Brother Moss, they fly to Nassau.
I have to wait another day. Not. Hold on. If they move from Acklands and want to go to Inagua, they come to New Providence either on Wednesday or Saturday.
Right.
They would have to they would have to wait until Friday or Monday.
Wow.
To go to Inagua.
So Professor, let's put that in context. You're flying 485 miles to the north,
right,
to come back 485 miles to the south.
Oh, that's too much.
In 2025.
2025. No, we got to change that.
Definitely have to change that. So things have to change, and I think the Prime Minister is doing an excellent job of illustrating the things. What we need to do is to have more public-private partnerships that people, Bahamians, are willing to invest in their own country to assist that.
To assist that, yeah.
And we have to promote that because we have become a government-dependent country.
But that's a good point you brought up. Now, I got some political questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll let you get to the political questions.
Well, he brought it up. This is Professor Sidney McGarr of Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. My special guest, Mr. Robert Karen and Mr. B.J. Moss. They're here, and we're going to get into the political side of things. The lines are open 326 813-0271, 813-0271. This is Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. We'll be back after the break.
Express yourself live. Follow us live on Facebook and Global Radio 99.5FM.com. Express yourself.
This is Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. My producer tell me I got the last half hour, so I got to get Mr. Karen to answer some political questions. Mr. Karen, give us a rundown on your family history as far as politics is concerned, and then after that, explain to us how you got attached to the Progressive Liberal Party.
Well, thanks, Professor. So 5 generations of the family have been in politics one way or the other, starting from my great-great-grandfather.
Yes.
You would know Sir Etienne Depuch brought
Yes,
marijuana. My uncle Bernard Depuch was a marijuana. My uncle Gene was in Crooked Island, but I don't know if you represent Acklands,
Yeah.
You did? Yes, Acklands, yes. And then my uncle Pierre was in Shirley,
yeah.
And so my mom wisely told me, says, son, when you go down to Michael, to the old Depuch territory, when you reach this, to introduce this project, don't be surprised if the people ain't checking for the project. They want you and the project.
Oh, okay.
So I went down to share about the project and the people, and I met a host of people from Anita. Anita was really the one who first got me, because Anita's aunt works in the Tribune.
Yes.
And she says, listen, when you go down, you know, I meet my aunt and da-da-da. So Anita, if you're listening, use the troublemaker, right? And then she introduced me to Boyd, and I met BJ, met Tim, I've met a whole host of people.
Right.
And so as I went down throughout the island, so I've been going down there since I was 8 years old, probably my 60th or 70th trip down there.
Wow, that's a long time.
And when I was down there, one of the things that was pretty interesting is one of the guys says Christopher Columbus would be very proud of us. I said, he would? Why? not a damn thing changed down here. You could even see the reef he ran up on.
Oh, okay.
So, it was interesting going with BJ and talking with BJ
Yes.
and getting a direction with Tim and obviously, Boyd and Lionel and getting feedback from both FNMs and PLPs.
Yes.
Because I figured that I've never been a tribal or a partisan politics. I've always thought that the best man should be regardless of what they are.
Right,
My
definitely.
passport says that I'm a Bahamian.
That's right.
When my son got a vaccine-related injury, the therapy-related leukemia that he had, it didn't ask me how I voted.
That's true.
Okay. When you go to a doctor, he doesn't say, "Hey, Professor, how did you vote last election?"
Yes.
So we're only really PLP and FNM at the time.
Right.
I think, with the greatest respects, that the former Prime Minister did nothing for the cause of the
Okay.
FNM.
Okay.
They still have some of that remnants there. And having worked there at the PHA, I was very
Right.
disillusioned.
Okay.
The Prime Minister, I think, now I wanted to say that, Trey Ramling's a very, very knowledgeable man in the office of Prime Minister. He says there's
Okay.
20% is FNM and 21% is PLP. The rest of us are independent, right?
Okay.
Okay. So, and that seems to be the case. So you have to provide opportunities for that. And so for a person who has the means, and I don't mean monetary, I mean the motivation. I mean the person who has had expertise and proven track record,
Yes.
a person whose family has been there and done it,
Yes.
and a mother who I can depend on. Mom's the most senior barrister on the bar. She's the first one pilot and
Okay.
the longest serving editor and publisher of a media
Yes.
company in the world.
Yes.
That's a tremendous, even the 95, her experience and legacy is amazing.
It is amazing. Yes, I agree.
And my uncle Gene was instrumental in the Prime Minister's legal career, and so you have had, even though Mum and the Prime Minister fought politically for many years,
Yes.
well, we came to a conclusion that for the betterment of the country, the Prime Minister is the right one, we feel, others might be different, to lead us in.
Okay.
And so then, in talking to BJ and having long conversations, Winston Churchill said something: people who don't change their mind never change anything. And so I don't know, I can only go from what it is today. And there are many reasons why, other reasons I wouldn't go into here, but
Okay.
that I do. But I felt that it was the right time, it was the right opportunity, and I thought that I don't need this job, unlike others. I want to serve my
You want to
people.
serve the people. Yes.
I want to honor the legacy of those who've come before me.
Yes.
And so I have put my hat in the ring as an aspirant, and we've
Right.
gone through the islands, and BJ and others and everybody has been very instrumental. And so maybe even BJ could probably tell you, he's run a couple campaigns. He calls me an anomaly. Anomaly?
Right.
Yeah. And
Yes.
and so but I love it down there. I love it down south. And I
Okay.
really think that the Southern Bahamas is the future of the Bahamas.
Okay, that's good. Brother BJ.
As a matter of fact, one of Mr. Karen's supporters and a good person on the team from, my God, actually from Crooked Island,
Okay.
Timothy Thompson. He often said that Michael is the Dubai of the Bahamas.
Wow.
The opportunities that exist there. We just haven't explored them.
Extraordinary.
And what I like about Robert is that he is I don't know if I want to say out of the box thinker.
Okay.
The box a little small. No, he thinks differently.
Differently, yes.
And when I can see development in the island, because I know that the government, as well-intentioned as they are, cannot do it alone.
Okay.
So for me, you need a representative with a reach.
Right.
That can reach out and cause some things to happen. He supports his government.
Yes.
But he is also making sure that there is growth and development in the constituency that he represents.
Okay.
You see, but when you come to me, and you tell me if I win, when we win, should we,
Yes.
Bro, what you bringing to the table?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
You see, BJ brings up an interesting point. A party needs young, senior, and middle. And I would
Yes.
put myself in the middle.
Okay.
Because the young have to learn the ropes. When I first came home, I was 22. Well, I was 15, actually, when I was starting the Tribune. My mom said, "You want to run the company?" I said, "Yes." So I got my little bow tie, my Sunday uniform. I showed up, and she had an overall and a spatula. I'm like, "What's going on here?" She said, "If you want to learn how to run, you have to ink it." I spent 10 years in the press room.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so the young have to come up through the ranks. Then
Okay.
you have what I call our foot soldiers, which is the middle ground. You have the senior guys who give us the leadership and direction.
Right.
And but you have to have, and you bring up an excellent point. If you're going to, the difference of probably myself and others is that, you have the ability to have connections. That's what you need in life. Life
That's
is about
important.
relationships,
Yes, it does.
both
Yes, it
here
does.
and external.
External, yes.
It's about people believing in you.
Yes.
It's about having a proven track record and showing the young guys and girls that they can come up and this is what they can do.
Yes. I believe I have a call on the line. Caller, you're live on air. Go ahead, please. Caller, speak up. I can't hear you. Would you turn your radio down or cut it off so we can hear you? Go ahead, caller. I don't think whoever it is, may not fully understand. Okay.
So back to what you're saying. So
yeah,
the government, this social dependency is a disease.
Okay.
Because there's no other opportunities. So people, de facto, the government becomes the employer of first resort as employer of last resort.
Okay, I accept that.
Okay.
Yes, that's the way it is.
The
now.
taxpayer dollars. So BP, sorry, I'm dating myself. BPL, I apologize, guys. BPL starts 40 million in the hole because the Family Island customers can't pay the true cost of what it is.
Okay.
The government can't pay, and the PHA that I used to run can't pay. So we're talking 80 million, let's just say.
Yes.
A business that starts 80 million in debt from the get-go is a problem.
That's a big problem.
Okay, so let's think about this. We need to wean ourselves away from what we have today because the country, as BJ just said, does not have the means to support everybody. That's
Yes.
socialism. We need to have a bit of, I'm going to call it capitalism with a social conscience.
Yes, definitely.
And we need to have people to understand that they are the captain of their ship,
Right.
and they control their soul's destiny. They do
Okay.
not have to be dependent on others. Mother Pratt told me an interesting thing. When I wanted to build a house for somebody, she says, "Oh, no. You get the lumber and we can pay them to learn how to build their own house." I said, "Why is that, Mother Pratt?" "Because I want to teach them how to fish. I don't want to give them no fish."
Okay.
And we built 35 houses through Butch Kersner and St. Cecilia's on that.
Okay.
If you go and look at West End, when we helped out in West End, so the family has a commitment to these islands. But I want to try and, if I was selected as a nominee,
Right.
is to create a different mindset. The mindset of you are the captain of your ship. Here are the opportunities. If you don't want to do them, that's fine.
Right.
But at least you have the opportunities to
You
do
have
them.
it available to you.
And if I can help, there's a young lady, I hope she's listening, in Inagua, remember, she wanted to be a veterinarian. She said she was leaving. I said, no, if God spare life, I'm around when you're 18, I'll pay for you to go to school because those flamingos need a veterinarian. Because if you're not going to take care of the flamingos, then they have more than got salt in flamingos.
Yes.
It's the biggest thing in the world. Let's try and do that. And so we have to find areas in which banking is another area.
That is true.
I support Fred Mitchell and I have had a number of disagreements over the years, but he is spot on with one thing. We need to have a customer bill of rights and force these banks, if you're going to have national licenses, to be in these islands.
Exactly.
You can't be everywhere you don't want to be. And so what does it cost to put an ATM down there? Right now, there's no banking in these islands.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, BJ, healthcare and stuff like that. Maybe BJ, maybe you could, he spent more time than I have.
Yeah.
You could follow up on that.
Yeah. No, it is a challenge. In 2015, I moved to Mayaguana. Lived in Mayaguana until 2017.
Okay.
When I moved to Acklands. Stayed until the end of 2018. And I can tell you, the challenge of going to the boat to collect your stuff.
Wow.
I could tell you the the challenge of not having a bank, needing money, and I always said, you know what? How difficult is it to put an ATM here? I don't play numbers, but I had an Island Luck account. You know why? Because that's the only way I could have sent money to my children,
Right.
or have, if somebody wanted me to do something, send money. That's the only way I could get it.
Okay, get it to them, yeah.
So people will look at me. They remembered my stance in the referendum on, well, it wasn't a referendum, but anyhow, they remembered my stance on that, and they say, yeah, look at a hypocrite. Going in there now to buy numbers. No, I wasn't buying the numbers.
I wasn't buying
I was trying to send some money.
you
But
sent some
that is
money.
what happened.
Yes.
You know, and I think today in 2025, see, because marijuana, no Aucklands today have Island Luck. And I look here, I salute.
Foxy, listening?
Yes,
I salute Island Luck
Okay.
for what they did,
All right.
because it served a purpose.
Yes,
all
it
right?
does.
But today they were not making the money, so they closed both the one in marijuana and Aucklands.
Okay.
So you have none.
But you know, sir, when you think about it, today's 2025.
Yes, it is.
And while we talk about Michael, the project is going through all the family islands. The same is in Andros. I spoke to Dave Marguerite and my good friend Leslie Bindling.
Yes.
The same thing is in Berry Islands, in Bimini, in Eleuthera. We have to get real and understand that us as Bahamians need to invest in their own things. And let's be honest, going into politics, right?
Yes.
You got to have thick skin. Okay, people use their freedom of speech, and they really use their freedom of speech, and I'm all for freedom of speech.
Yeah.
But you know, I hope that we can get debates and get it away from all this as the legacy of the past, and get it away to putting the issues.
But I'd like to see that too, and I try hard on the air, because when I try to get people to respond, when I ask them about things happening right in their own constituency, have you seen any improvements? What about the things that affect you? Have you seen anything solved? I could never get a clear-cut answer. What they end up doing is they start talking about the problem all over again. Well, because it doesn't appear as if any real answers to constituency problems. I asked that last July the 8th, right on up to now, and no one has been able to say, Professor, these are the clear-cut problems we have had solved in our particular constituency, and here are the clear-cut benefits that come to us.
Well, I think, Professor, the answer to your question reflects why we vote governments out.
Okay.
And because
so.
and I hope that this administration is listening. So just to be clear, this administration is a supermajority in Parliament of a minority of the voters during the election.
That is correct.
So last time it was a referendum on the Prime Minister. The Easter Bunny could have won as long as he wasn't wearing a red shirt. This time, and I think that Brave has a good chance of taking it again. But he has to answer the questions. The questions are, what do you think the questions are when I walk around and I don't travel on a road that has an ocean on the left or right side all the time?
Right.
Okay, contrary to popular belief. I think when we stop to ask people, it's immigration, it's crime, healthcare, and infrastructure.
Yes.
Okay, so if we focus on those issues and the questions you ask, a normal politician would learn to deflect.
Yes.
So if you ask me a question, I'm going to say blah, 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 and blame the other guy.
Exactly.
That's probably why I won't make a good politician, because I'll actually answer it, right? So, to my demise, but nevertheless. And so it's been, and what we really need to understand is after the election, I'm not for cronyism. I ain't for corruption. I ain't for slackness. And I ain't for that. Okay. So I don't mind if people get first among equals, but you better do it to the same standard as everyone else.
Exactly.
And you better do it for the same price. You can't do it for twice the price and not do the job.
And not do the job. That's correct.
That ain't cutting it. That can't work.
That can't work at all.
So the next thing is, any party, be it the current party, other parties, need people who are going to execute their vision. That's where
Yes.
the guys come in, the seasoned guys. And so you can see that the prime minister has a wonderful vision. He talks the right things. One of the things perhaps that in his second term, he might want to execute more as in terms of how do you make sure that your policies get executed, because
Yes.
the civil servants is notorious for saying no.
Yes.
It's not the easiest place to get. Yeah, you can get forgiveness easier than get a yes. And so, we need to change these dynamics.
No,
and
we have to.
if there's one thing that I could, and the one thing BJ tells me is that win or lose, I've managed to put MyCal back on the map.
Okay.
And that might be my proudest achievement at the moment, is that I've been able to open the dialogue from MyCal and the Family Islands. And thank you for having me and having others.
Yes.
And I think that other candidates should come in, because we have things that billions of people yearn for,
Yes, we
and
do.
hundreds of thousands that die for. You know
Yeah,
what they
that's
are?
right,
The
that's
freedom
right.
of speech
Yes.
and the freedom to choose your own leaders.
That's right.
And so stop worrying about the past. Let's talk about the issues. And if you think whoever it is better than me, God bless. That's the will of the people.
That's the will of the people.
If you think
yes.
I can do it, fine. If I was to represent, I'm going to be someone for all Bahamians,
Right.
whether you voted for me or not.
Because this is the problem that you see in the constituencies, where people will say, well, that's not my representative, where that particular personality is to represent for the entire constituency.
Correct.
They either look at it as through political eyes, either PLP, FNM, or whoever. And so you have this polarization of parliamentary democracy.
Correct.
So the particular personality in that particular area doesn't seem to understand his or her function as a parliamentarian, according to the Constitution, and also their association with a political party. The Constitution allows for that, for people to be associated with political parties. But the point is, we're not getting the parliamentary representation from the particular personality in the parliamentary seat. What you're getting is a party candidate who is sitting in a parliamentary seat, not performing parliamentary functions.
Yep.
That's our problem. But Moss?
Yes, we have people who, and I'm going to be very direct with this, people who deify their MPs.
That's a problem.
All right.
That's a big problem.
No, they do. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you're not to like your MP, that you're not to respect your MP, but you deify God.
Yeah. You
That's
deify
the
God,
only
yeah.
person, right?
That's right, yeah.
And the thing is, after the election, you must remember that we would have shared the red, the blue, the gold, and we adorn ourselves in the aquamarine, gold, and black.
That's correct.
We must remember that we are one. And I cannot cannibalize my brother or sister because he's on the other side of the political divide.
Exactly.
No, the same constitution that tells me today, BJ, you can be a PLP.
Yes,
Tell that other fella he could be FNM.
of course.
How can I get upset with him for being FNM when he sure as hell can't get upset with me for
Exactly.
being PLP?
Exactly.
And we have to recognize that.
Yes.
And I think that is the biggest challenge
No, that's a huge
that we
challenge.
have in this country.
That's a huge challenge.
One of the things also, following
Yes,
on
sir.
BJ said, is that I have many friends, long, close friends on both political sides.
Okay.
Who would have thought that Leslie Pinling, Blue is running for the FNM nominations, my brother, you have Burton, we have Rick Fox, Adam, we have wonderful heated discussions,
Yes.
but we're still the best of friends.
Well, that's good.
Now, Adam supports the Washington Redskins. I
Right.
can't understand that. I'm the Miami Dolphins. He can't understand that either.
Yeah.
But we still love each other like brothers.
You obviously
Yes.
didn't watch the Clemens.
No, God.
Oh,
I stopped.
that
It's
hurts my head.
unbelievable. We haven't had a quarterback since Dan Marino. But
So why is it then that we have this massive division when it comes to persons being associated with a particular political party.
Because it's tribal politics and identity
And that's
politics.
dangerous.
And that thankfully, Professor, I'll defer to your expertise, but as I go around, you're going to find the 20s, 30s, and 40s have no connection to that.
Okay.
And as you go down, you're going to find they're very independent. They're voting for the person that they think is going to. Gone are the days, and I don't use green for political party, but it's green for go, it's green for the environment, it's green for the money.
Of course.
And so they don't. They take these rights. My grandfather broke down racial discrimination in 56.
Yes, he did. Yes.
Sir Lyndon Pinley was the father of the nation.
Yes.
When we were asking them, they had no idea who both of them were. They said, "Oh, that's the guy down on the Shirley Street," and they go, "Wasn't he the prime minister?" I'm like, "What?" So they don't know. They don't know, and so they think everything for granted, not what has been fought. So in order to connect with them today, I think it is a fundamental error to focus on that. You respect the past, you educate the past, but you've got to focus on the issues today.
On issues today, yeah, I agree with that.
And those politicians that are excellently, Jomo, Joe Beth, Sands, Fred Mitchell in these areas, right?
Yeah.
They take care of their communities regardless of who they are. So
I was told that about Fred Mitchell.
Yeah, at Fred Mitchell, Joe Beth is the same. I'm sure there are many other politicians. I apologize for not knowing your names, but Mother Pratt was a wonderful example of this. Wonderful example, the Governor General.
Yes.
And so, this sort of what we're facing, sir, I hope is the end of it, and hope we can have some new blood.
But I think we need new blood.
The thing is, though, we have a party system in the country.
Yes.
And I tell people all the man, look here, get in your party, love your party, because I go into war with my party.
Yeah.
You do that. But you must give the other person their freedom to do the same.
The same, yes.
And at the end of the day, when we win, and we will win, we put that aside and we are brothers.
Yeah.
No issue. The tribalism must stop.
Must stop, yeah. Dr. Miles Monroe talked about that, about people coming to the forefront who have the Spirit of God in them to bring about the changes that we so desperately need in our country today. Because this tribalism has not helped us at all. In 52 years we've had it. It hasn't helped. You had one administration in, the next administration, massive majority. But you haven't seen any real clear-cut solutions to the issues that affect the Bahamian people today. They've just been piling up, and that is the problem we have to fix. I think my time is up. This is Professor Sidney McGarr of Walterton. Thank you, Mr. Karen, for coming, and also Mr. BJ and the other two who were here earlier. This is Professor Sidney McGarr of Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. My special guests would have been Mr. Robert Karen and Mr. BJ Moss. Okay? This is Professor Sidney McGarr of Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network. Please remember to pray for the country now. We need prayers, but we got to act on the information that we have in our Constitution and be able to work together as a people, one flag, one nation under God. Forward, upward, onward together. That is what we to be about, yeah. This is Professor Sidney McGarr of Walter Thompson on the Global Radio Network, 99.5 FM. Have a pleasant afternoon.